and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about my 7 years of working experience with Mr. Hamid Mir. I started working for Mr. Mir back in February 2006 when he hired me as a researcher for the talk show Capital Talk that is hosted by him. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of working with him is the pressure. It's not in any negative connotation, rather, it's the pressure of working with a high profile journalist and the most watched talk show of the country. We as a production team had to exert so many efforts to make it sure that the talk show would remain at the top slot. And for that, we would do everything in terms of making the content appealing as well as production techniques to make it sure that the program was going to get the highest ranking. When I mentioned about pressure, it was a part and parcel of the talk show and working with Mr. Hamid Mir. The second thing that comes to my mind when I think of working with Mr. Hamid Mir is mental and physical agility. When I was hired for the talk show Capital Talk, we didn't have any dedicated reporter. So if there was any need of interviewing a politician, then we had to be on our toes. And one of the team members had to be ready to go out and do that. Since Capital Talk is the current affairs program, we had to ensure that we were covering every aspect of the current developments. And for that, we had to be aware of the breaking news because it could change the whole trajectory of the program as well as the panelist. It's not only about the live programs, but we also had to be cognizant of the fact that what were the other issues that were of high importance. So in order to achieve the highest level of the program, we had to exert all the efforts and all our energy to ensure that we were not only covering the recent developments, but the issues that were new and attract the public's attention. The other thing that comes to my mind when I think of working with Mr. Hamid Mir is promptness. If Mr. Mir assigned me or the other team members any work, then it had to be done. And regardless of the challenges that we would face, although he was always there to guide us, in the end, if we were assigned that work, we had to make sure that we were doing it in the right and in a high standard manner. So all these three things that I mentioned were prerequisites of working with Mr. Hamid Mir. Now I'm going to talk about different lessons that I learned while working with him. Lesson number 1 is bravery and courage. Mr. Mir received so many threats and he had so much opposition when I was working with him, and I'm sure it still persists to this day. One of the incidents that I want to mention here was the time when a bomb was found inside his car and he called me after a few minutes. I thought that he was going to discuss something about the incident. Rather, he began discussing about that day's program's topic and the panelists that he wanted us to arrange. I asked him how he was doing. He told me that he was doing fine and he was busy talking to the police officials about that incident. And he also wanted me and the other team members to focus on that day's program. Other than that one incident, I remember talking to him after he was shot 3 times and he was on the hospital bed when I called him. And I could sense the weariness in his voice. But the other thing I also sensed was his bravery and commitment with his cause. So to this day, when I'm not working with him, I remember that how strong he was during all that time when he faced opposition and the threats to his life. The other thing that I learned from him was script writing. When I joined Geo Television, I didn't know how to write script for my reports. It was my first report when I was struggling to write the script. And he saw the footage, and after a few minutes, he gave me the script so that I could do voiceover. I kept that script and I read it over and over. And I made a commitment to myself that I would learn how to write the script. So from that point onwards, I began writing script from my own reports. But when he wrote a script for me, I was so much impressed that how he just wrote script in few minutes, which it could have taken me hours to write. And aside from writing the script, I also learned how to make news. I remember when I joined Geo Television, I didn't know that I would learn how to write news for the newspaper. But within a year, I began writing news for Jung newspaper and the News, which are the sister newspapers of Geo Television. So it was something that I was so proud of doing that time, and still to this day when I look back at all those years. The other thing that I commend Mr. Mir for doing that whoever worked with him, he provided a level playing field. When I joined his team as a researcher, but within a year, I began doing reporting and production. So when I look back at all those years that I worked with him, all I can say that it was one experience of a lifetime. It was not a momentarily impact, rather an impact of a lifetime. All those years that I worked with Mr. Hamid Mir for the talk show Capital Talk prepared me to handle so many challenges in the years to come. Besides 6 months that I spent with Pakistan Television, all the other years of my journalism career comprise working with Mr. Hamid Mir. You can imagine that how important are those years to me, and I still value them after so many years. This is it for this video. If you like this video, please give me thumbs up and please subscribe. I'll be back next week. Until then, please take care.